Process of memorizing the past into the back of my mind. Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Moon Base podcast. I'm sitting here lakeside enjoying a nice sunny day after a week of rain, and went from tarping and hammocking it to residing in an abandoned dwelling just to stay dry and whatnot. And so in this episode I'm talking to both Sham and Quirky, and we talk moving to America, home science experiments, hygiene on the road, native and Eastern culture and the differences with Western ways of thinking, and a whole lot more. And because I'm outside, I won't do one of the formal joke ads that I usually do. But I also want to give a shout out to Sham for being our first Patreon member, and thank you for supporting the podcast. And if you like what you hear, I encourage you guys all to do so. And you guys can find both Quirky Blurky and IamShamtheMan stuff in the description of this episode, so give their content a look. And now into the episode. So first, three-way call on the moon base. Quite the event. Hope the listeners are excited, or as excited as I am. And if you guys have any words to start off with.
Well, I was going to say exactly the same thing to you, Quirky. Awesome to meet you. I think I've run across you on Reddit a few times, but it's nice to actually meet up the chat. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. For sure.
So what have you guys been up to?
I'll let Sham go first. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. You sort of broke up.
I was just saying, what have you guys been up to?
For me, it's the usual thing, just hanging out here in Seattle. I'm at the park. I was joking with you that any passerby will be like, man, this guy's schizophrenia. That's pretty entertaining. Looks like he's having a coherent conversation. It's been getting a little bit colder, but it's all relative. Like I was telling you, Chicago, -40. So I've experienced a ton of sub-zero stuff, but I think it's kind of that transition between normal weather to cold that sort of gets you. My sleep hasn't been as well. I feel a little bit sick, but again, I mean, it's the whole positive aspect. I still feel solid. Everything is good to go. Just working as much as I can so that I can build up those funds. So when I go down to Oregon and continue my journey, I won't have to worry as much. And then I was also talking about potentially coming up to Canada, but really right now it's just trying to hustle and grind so that I can have more comfort down the road.
Right on.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much the same thing. I've been working. Can't wait to get up to Canada. So I'll actually have a place to stay. That'll be nice. It's been going to work. Haven't been doing much else than that. Dealing with some home stuff with my sister, but I'm not there all the time, so that's good. But just keeping on.
Yeah, you were saying you were looking at a few different places. So did you end up deciding Canada's the way to go?
Yeah, I talked to my friends up there, and it seems like it's the best option, at least for the winter.
Right on. Yeah, and Sham was also saying he's thinking about hitting Calgary soon, so I don't know, like I'm currently near, like in the GTA area, but If I could find the right steel dragon, I might go out there and meet both of y'all.
That would be awesome. No, that'll be, yeah, it'll be awesome. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I'm always, pretty open on my social media about that type of stuff. I was going to ask you, Quirky, like, you don't have to reveal this, or you don't have to be so specific, but, like, what area are you at this point?
I'm in Gresham right now. Just right out in Gresham. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Oregon. I grew up in Corvallis, Oregon, an hour and a half away, and then I've lived in the Portland area, more like the west side. But I used to go to Gresham here and there. So yeah, that's awesome, man. Definitely, that's like my home state there. How'd you like it?
It's all right, It's a little weird once you get to the downtown core, but on the outskirts, it's not so bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
How would you guys say Oregon is as a whole? Like, is it worth visiting as an outsider?
Oh yeah, everywhere's worth visiting, But yeah, Portland's like unique. It's definitely something to see, I remember when I first pulled in, it was, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of Winnipeg a little bit at the beginning. But then, it's got a certain vibe to it that you don't feel anywhere else. Like a weird vibe.
Yeah,
you know how they say keep, you know how they say keep Portland weird? Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, exactly.
Yeah.
What about it's weird?
Go ahead, Quirky.
I think that was Cap.
Yeah, I was just asking what about it is weird.
Well, I don't know. It's got like the people here are strange in a good way sometimes not. But you don't find that other places. They have like I don't know. Weird is the only word that I can really think of. It's a vibe. You got to feel it and experience it to understand it.
Yeah, fair. I'd also say though, like people from LA are weird.
Yeah.
Like they have their own thing going on, and like everything they say kind of sounds like a question, and they just have their own quirks about them.
Yeah.
Is there like a specific Portland thing to that, or
Say that again?
is there like a specific like Portland, like I don't know, is there like a stereotypical Portland person,
Well, kind of. I mean, the rich people here are very quirky, But, like everybody seems to have, not everybody, but a lot of people, they seem to have this, like, thing about them. Like I said, it's hard to explain it. You gotta experience it. It's a thing.
For me, like, just being an Oregonian, it's so much different than the rest of the states. Like, you've got Portland is by itself, but you've got the Valley, which includes Portland. That's where I'm from. And then the eastern part is where it's the real conservative parts, and they're talking about seceding, joining Idaho or something like that. But Portland really just, like, runs the state because of the huge population. The weird part for me, have you guys heard of Portlandia, the show, with Fred Armisen, and I forget. Yeah, that's perfect. If you want to know Portland, watch Portlandia. And in the beginning, they say, Portland is the place where young people go to retire. So for me, the stereotype is just kind of, a 20-year-old really, really kind of trying to become, it's always a liberal arts type of feel to it, I think. It's like they want to become a writer or a poet or an actor. Barista is probably the most common job. That's kind of the most common stereotype I see is kind of like a young, eclectic, eccentric barista type. I think it still almost like preserves that counterculture of the 70s in a way. There's like a hippie feel to it as well. Seattle would be the closest thing I'd describe to it, but like Quirky was saying, the only way you can really know is to go to Portland and spend some time there. It's definitely like, it stands out amongst all the places I've been, and just being an Oregonian, it's totally different than the rest of the state for sure. So Oregon as a whole, for me, I think it's the best value in the U.S. When I was working, like being a licensed electrician, the cost of living, the amount of money you make, for me was the best scenario and combo I can find in the nation. Because I'm part of the union. We have a bunch of local halls, like over 1,000 throughout the U.S. and Canada. You can look up the wage rates and stuff like that. I haven't found a better value than Oregon. I think that's why maybe a couple of years ago, it was the most moved to states, or definitely amongst the top. There was a lot of people, as I was leaving there, I'd see a lot of people from Texas, especially California, coming up to Oregon. Obviously, it's going to drive up the prices. I'm not sure now, but I think Oregon is definitely, especially if you want to settle down, you've got a family, Oregon's high up on that list, in my opinion. And also, it's one of the most geographically diverse states. Along with Washington and California is the most diverse. You've got the ocean, lakes, rivers, and a lot of people don't know that at least half, if not more than half the state is high desert. Totally different scenery. You're able to experience so many different things in a state like Oregon, being able to see different things and just have like recreational activities and stuff like that.
When I went to Texas, I was really hoping to see like deserts and stuff like that, but it was all just ranches and grass as far as the eye could see.
Did you go to West Texas, like El Paso, towards El Paso?
No, I did Dallas, Austin.
Dramatically. Okay, Austin is at the very middle. That's like the transition period. If you head east, that's where the Southwest starts. I would say once you get to El Paso, you're definitely in the Southwest. But I like West Texas more so. Like anything east of Austin is just muggy. It turns into the actual South with all the humidity, which I hate. But if you go from Austin, which is like the furthest east I want to go there, and then you start heading west, that's when things really open up and you start getting to the deserts, which Southwest is my favorite spot.
Oh, yeah. One sec, I think Quirky got disconnected. So you're talking about Texas there?
Yeah, the part I left off was just how dramatic the western, and once you get to Austin heading west, how it turns into the Southwest. And just being a Pacific Northwest kid, for me, I gravitated toward that. My 40-state road trip was kind of like a recruiting potential home type of deal as well. And when I hit the Southwest, even before I got there, just thinking about it, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy it. And once I got there, it was magic. My breathing got better, my joints hurt less. That's an added bonus as well. And then just like the scenery, which is why I'm going to settle in Vegas. I'm actually a Nevada resident. That's where my ID comes from. But I would say that's where it starts. And once you leave Austin and head west, you're going to see a totally different part of Texas. And that's the part of Texas I actually enjoy. Because the other half is swampy and humid and full of people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's a good description.
I've wanted to, I don't know, like in high school, my buddies and I, we used to listen to a lot of like Texas and Memphis rap, like from Texas, specifically Houston. And like ever since I was younger, I always wanted to go there, and going there and seeing that an acre was, it was 85 grand for 12 acres in like a ranch that's already set up. And you could go to Cabela's and buy an FN Scar, an MP5. Like it was like a 10-year-old boy's like wet dream down there, you know?
Texas is different place.
Yeah, and when I went down there, I was like, okay, definitely, like, I want to live here at some point. But like, also getting a U.S. citizenship is pretty hard, and especially considering like whatever legal background one might have, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, I think if you sneak across and then like claim asylum or something like that, it just seems like if you sneak across, you have a better chance. Like if you come here illegally, it might help you.
Yeah, I don't know about Texas so much, maybe like the sanctuary cities or whatnot.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
to New
you
York
come
or
to
something.
Sanctuary City first. Yeah, come there first and then come to Texas.
Yeah, like a lily pad kind of city then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides, there's a lot of good services in New York for homeless people, so you'll be comfortable while you're there.
Okay. I was looking at like, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Now I was going to ask Quirky because of the 10 states I haven't been, is the 9 to the Northeast, including New York, and then I want to say Hawaii is the capstone. But what part of New York were you at? I have a buddy in Rochester, and I'm planning to definitely like train hop over to NYC sometime. But were you in actual NYC?
Yeah, I've been to New York twice, and then Buffalo once. I don't suggest going to Buffalo. Buffalo's kind of run down. It's not a great place. But New York City is really cool.
Sorry, just to interrupt you. The funny thing you mentioned Buffalo, because as an urban explorer, I explore massive abandoned buildings like across the nation. Buffalo keeps getting brought up. I talked to this one guy, and he randomly mentioned, he's like, yeah, I'm from Buffalo, you should definitely go there. So as weird as it sounds, like under normal circumstances, I understand like why the hell would you go to Buffalo, but that's actually high up on my list.
Well, if you're one of those types, no, sorry, I mean that's okay. Yeah, if you're one of those types of dudes, yeah, I'd recommend going there. Same with, have you been to Detroit?
Oh, Detroit's that's like my soul city, if you want to call it. Detroit's my spot. I spent winter of 2021 there. Explored a couple places. Actually, I had a spot on top of an abandoned hospital. That was one of the places I stayed at. I love Detroit. I'm definitely going to go back.
No, I haven't been yet. I was thinking about going, but then I got sick, and I had to go down south because, there's something about Canada in the Northeast. There's too much industrial stuff going on. I got real sick up there, so I had to go down to San Diego to kind of mitigate that.
So you think maybe it's like all the chemicals in the ground and the air from all that like manufacturing? Because the Great Lakes area, that's what it was known for. That's why it's perfect for urban exploring. With that industry collapse that left a bunch of skeletons behind, but that's kind of what you feel is causing some of the stuff, right?
Yeah, I got a lot of stomach aches, and they said my liver enzymes were elevated. And, yeah, I was feeling pretty sick.
One time I went to Lake Erie, which is a known spot for their uranium mining there. And I had a radiation detector, and I'd go through to different spots, and I found this old abandoned mine, and I found a piece of uranium ore that they used to block off the mine entrance.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I was still in high school, and I brought the piece to my chemistry class and tried to extract like the uranium metal from the rock itself.
Did
And
you feel any effects or what?
no, no. Like when I was in high school too, like I used to do fucking insane like science projects in my backyard, and like I probably got like 10 radium clocks. So I scraped off all the radium off of the dials, and then I put them in uh an aluminum ball with beryllium, so it would make neutrons once the alpha particles hit it. And then I put it in this case I made that was a mix of cubes that were either carbon or uranium glass plates that I found at antique stores that I also hunted with the Geiger counter. And then if you slow down that neutron at the right speed and it hits the uranium particle, then you make plutonium, and that's how nuclear reactors work.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I built like a weird mini like model of that, and it did get more radioactive as time went on. And but also like it wasn't enough to actually generate heat to like turn a steam turbine or something like that. But yeah, it was still like pretty cool to do, and the core of that was 13,000 counts per minute. And if you were to measure the rock I found there, the uranium ore, it was maybe like 200.
Oh, okay.
So this thing in my back. Pardon?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying.
I'm also laughing because I did a bunch of just insane, crazy stuff growing up, juvenile delinquent and whatnot. But one of the things I just randomly wanted to do was kill a bunch of ants. So I took a bottle and I dumped every single chemical I could find in the house into a bottle just to see what would happen. And I left it in my closet. I come back an hour later and there's fumes coming out of the closet. I open it up and it's literally melting the plastic. So that was kind of my one mad scientist moment. Definitely, there was no thought process behind it like you've got like an intellectual approach, you know what you're doing. But I was also laughing extra hard because I'm thinking of like how idiotic I was to just dump chemicals together. Like, what was I expecting?
You could make some pretty fun stuff with household chemicals.
For sure, if you had an idea, but I literally was dumping just every single product you could find. So, I also another crazy thing. When I was first starting combat sports, doing jiu-jitsu, we'd go to tournaments up in Seattle from Corvallis. So it's like a 4 or 5 hour drive. Me and my buddy would drive up there and we'd camp out in our car. Or we'd bring a tent and we'd camp out outside the facility, and it was in this coffee warehouse in this industrial area of Seattle. And I decided to make like in my own energy drink or whatever it was. So I took like every energy drink and sports drink you could think of, dumped it into a gallon jar. I dumped all these vitamins in there to be dissolved. And we started drinking it. I felt fine, but my buddy vomited halfway through his match. So it was one of those other mad scientist experiments that failed because, again, I didn't have any thought process like you behind any of that. So yeah, I'm definitely not scientific.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done a bunch of weird fucking experiments when I was a kid, like even like making chloroform or like LSA, which is like a weird derivative of LSD. And, like you're just, I don't know, you're just 13 and in your basement tripping balls, not knowing what's going on. Like,
You guys sound like interesting. Quirky. I was going to ask Quirky if you have like any sort of interesting experiences or stuff like that.
Not with chemicals. I'm kind of afraid of chemicals. Like when I clean things, I use vinegar. I don't like the household cleaners and all that. I don't shampoo my hair. I don't use soap. I just kind of use the water, you know what I mean? I don't like stuff like that. Never did.
What's the longest that you've gone without a shower? This was something that just came to mind for me like a couple of weeks ago because I've gone a couple months actually without it, and I did just fine. Like I didn't get any skin infections or anything like that. It seems like you're much more resilient, or maybe there's like a thought process behind your body adjusts to all these different things if you're not like treating it with harsh chemicals all the time. It's almost like not getting vaccinated. Maybe in a way you can build a stronger defense over time.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Like, I've gone a year without showering. I think, growing up, I never really showered a whole lot. Never really brushed my teeth. I was always, like, natural, you know what I mean? And I've never had any problems. Any major ones. I find that I don't get sick as much as other people. You know?
Exactly. That's a good point. I almost feel like a vagabond lifestyle, I was commenting on this before, that if you use it in the right way, it's going to make you better as a person overall. It's just how you approach it. So there's definitely a lot of strengths you get from it, but you have to approach it the right way. A lot of people, I feel, they broadcast it in such a negative, and me and Kath have discussed this many times, they approach it in a negative, suffering type of way. And it's like, why are you doing it? If it's so bad, why are you doing it? So I applaud you, Quirky, for, going out there, doing your thing, being positive, and actually like learning lessons and getting betterment out of this.
Yeah. You too. I heard your podcast there, the one you did with Cap, and it was pretty good. You're an interesting fellow.
Thanks. Same to you. Yeah, same to you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I find that being a vagabond is something that I've always wanted to do, even if I didn't know I wanted to do it, you know what I mean? I was always gravitating towards, like, the street life and being out in the, like, outdoors and stuff. So it's a good lifestyle for the people that can do it,
Yeah, I think for both of you, I was wondering, like, maybe we're the last generation that really experienced the outdoors. In terms of being forced out there, we didn't have the technology growing up for us to be attached to all that stuff. If you guys feel like it's going to become a lost art, that's kind of what I feel. It's going to become a lost art. I don't know if it's like what it's going to become of being a vagabond. But also at the same time, did you guys feel like growing up you wanted to escape? There was some sort of trauma or bad experiences where you're like, listen, I meant to be out there. I meant to be outside of the scenario that's causing me suffering or harm.
Kind of, yeah. I would say so. I don't know. For me, it was always like I wanted to connect with the people that were more like me. And the people that I grew up with were not like me at all. So...
Yeah, same.
Yeah, like people in the streets, you always get like this extreme spectrum of people in the streets, right? You got to get the really like hardcore crackhead who's like always passed out and trying to steal shit from you, or you get like the old guy that's like super wise and been around and can teach you all this different like shit, So people in the streets are a lot more themselves. They're authentically them, you know what I mean? Whatever that may be. And I've always been attracted to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree where it just feels like I'm in this world for sure, but part of me feels like this isn't it, and that I'm trying to kind of see maybe through like adventuring or doing as many things as I can, really, even if it's like a negative experience or positive experience. Trying to experience as much of like what it is to be a person and seeing where I go from there. Because a lot of the times, the more you try and experience, I find like your expectations kind of get turned on their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole idea of, like, when you mentioned learning through the fire, that's been my entire life story. Just coming up hard, coming up through a rough background, that's how I was forced to learn. Thankfully, I gravitated towards that, and was able to turn it into a positive. And vagabonding is the ultimate experience. You're out there in the elements. It's a raw experience. you're going to have to learn the hard way. But like I was saying, if you take it for what it is, if you take it into making you a better person, absolutely, I think it's maybe the best way you can actually kind of elevate yourself. And there's no other experience. There's no other way to get these unique experiences and actually putting yourself out there, whether it's harmful or not. It speaks to something. So I'm definitely grateful. And we were talking about, actually, me and Cap were talking about like this hypothetical vagabond community and how it'd be based more upon like Native American teachings, ways of life. And I totally agree. We're living unnaturally. I don't think we're meant to be connected to all this technology. I don't think we're supposed to interact with that many people because we grew up in tribes. So you're going to be dealing with a couple dozen people at most. We've got these social media platforms where there's millions of people, and there's people broadcasting all sorts of wild stuff that we're not meant to really be able to decipher fully and being bombarded by. I absolutely agree. I think by becoming a vagabond, you're almost returning to a more natural way of life. It's almost like an escape, but like an escape to something that is more pure. And it's funny because the whole Native American thing makes sense to me. I don't know why, but I've always been like, if I was to pick a culture, I would say Native American is my culture. And just going through South Dakota and seeing all these cool exits that you can go see like native stuff at was my best experience. That's why I always tell people like South Dakota is probably my best overall state because of that. I definitely want to, learn more about indigenous people. I think they have more rights than not.
Yeah, I'm part Native, and I was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Raised in Winnipeg for the most part. There's a lot of Native people in Winnipeg, and I've always been more. That part of me has always been more like who I really am. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like my hair is long. That's part of my culture. I've done the sweat lodges and the smudging and the dances and all of that, and I always felt like there was more belonging with that sort of lifestyle than the white way of living. You know what I mean? Like, white people always seem to have this, like, I only do things for my own benefit kind of thing, Whereas Native people...
That takes over.
Yeah. Individualism. They don't understand community as well, I mean, some, but not all. The vast majority of white people, I find, are kind of closed off to that kind of thinking.
Exactly. Like I come
Go ahead.
So, like I'm a first generation American. My parents are from North Africa, Morocco, and Algeria. And that's the one biggest thing I would say is that the sense of community, when like the Eastern way and stuff, I connect more to it. I think me and Cap were even talking about like certain stuff, how people in the West, especially like relationships and stuff like that, is just so shallow and weird and attention seeking and stuff like that. It's like the people in the East are I think living the right way. But we frown on them just because we only value socioeconomic status here. So we kind of look down on them, but it's like, no, I think they have it the right way. Because happiness is the biggest utility value, I think. They did some sort of survey, and they found these tribal people, Bushmen in Kenya, were like the happiest people on earth. It makes sense. But when you bring them to the West, when you bring them to America, then they get depressed. So if you're not exposed to this Western culture of consumerism, individualism, competitiveness, all this, shallowness and stuff like that, you're generally going to be a very happy person. It seems like when people come to the West from the Eastern cultures, from the community culture, that's when they start declining.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I find that's interesting that could fit in nice is David Cho talks about this on Joe Rogan. And he was saying that he lived with a hunter-gatherer tribe called the Hadza in Tanzania, and he was saying to them, like, because they were all super jacked and like ripped and looking great, and he was saying, you guys could be like models in America, like, why don't you come over with me, like, we could get you like a whole life there, like a whole career and everything, like places to live. And they said, like, America, isn't that the place where people like jump off buildings to like die? And like to them the concept of suicide was so foreign, but like they just wouldn't accept going there because they were like, no, like if that's going on where you're living, there's clearly something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like homicide too, and like just all like social disorder. We don't have it right over here. That's for sure. We think that we're like the supreme nation or whatever, but we're not. We're not. We don't even come close to what the tribal people understand about being human. You know what I mean? The people over here seem to be living in this fantasy land of like they. I don't know. It's just like a fantasy, Like they're trying to make up something to compensate for not understanding what it's like to be human.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you say that phrase. It's awesome that you say that phrase because when I first started my journey over 2 years ago, I didn't have social media. I've been on and off, but I just rejected social media. It was too much vanity. I started my social media at quote-unquote my lowest point, but really that's my most empowering point. It was the point when I became a vagabond and all I had was a pack on my back. And I showed what it means to be human. I use that phrase so much. I'm trying to show what it means to be human. You need food. You don't got food. You don't have readily access to it. Go dumpster diving. I show myself dumpster diving. Hey, I'm going to be sleeping in an alleyway. I'm going to be sleeping in some abandoned building. I'm going to be coming across some weird violent encounter on the streets. Like, what you mentioned is exactly what I'm trying to show. And I believe that's where genuine connections come from. Because if you can look at my content, if you can look at what I'm broadcasting, just like what you guys are broadcasting, and you can say, yes, Sham, I connect with this, then you're my people. I also mentioned, I feel like I'm an alien. I'm trying to find other aliens on Earth, in a sense. So that's an awesome phrase, Quirky, that you used in terms of showing what it means to be human.
Interesting you say that, because I feel sometimes like I'm of a different breed than the people that walk around me every day, like people that are like walking up down the street looking at their phones, or people that are driving erratically just because they can, like bosses and stuff. Like I don't ever want to be a boss at like a job or something. Like that's foreign to me. I don't want to be in control of other people. And I don't want people controlling me, We're all here to help each other. We're not here to compete,
It's weird, but, kind of connected to that. I grew up, I was the oldest of 7, and just real mental health issues at home from my parents and stuff. I used to just get the shit beat out of me so often and just enclosed in my room. And I remember one of my most common thoughts when I'd be sleeping up on that bunk bed was convincing myself that I was adopted, that like this is not my family, that I was waiting for aliens to take me. So I was always connected to that kind of alien escape thing. Like, these are not my people. I'm meant for something else. Like, this is a big mistake. I was misplaced. Like, I'm just waiting for my true people to come and take me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know how you feel.
Yeah, it sounds pretty rough. I had like pretty rough experiences, but I don't think I ever thought I was, or not thought, but like was trying to like convince myself that I was adopted.
Yeah, it sucks for my siblings and stuff like that because we're all trapped in a home. When you have mental illness and you've been beaten down and downtrodden, you convince yourself that your room is the world. It's almost like a self-protection mechanism. You just think that this is life, and you force yourself not to interact because that's when you're going to find deficiencies. That's when you're going to feel less than. I don't know how I escaped, what I was able to do, what I was able to do. I talked to psychiatrists, and they're like, the biggest mystery is the mystery of the mind. There's certain things we're never going to find out. You can chalk stuff up to luck, and that's why I just feel grateful and blessed. So whatever day I'm able to live, I'm grateful for, being vagabond or whatever else I do, it's a positive. And it's tough for me to understand people who just want to always broadcast suffering. You're lucky to be living. There's people who are trapped. There's people who have, I've been thankful enough to have hundreds of people DM me because I've been open about my things. And there's people out there, there's women out there that are getting raped and they're enslaved and they have no way out. And it's like, but they want a better life. And those are the people that I want to help. And it sucks to see people being that vulnerable that actually want to live. And if you're here being free and you're bitching and complaining, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry to be so dramatic, but there's people who are enslaved, literally enslaved, and they're doing all the right things, and they really want to live life, and you're able to live life, and all you want to do is broadcast suffering. I can't compute that. So, yeah. Again, I'm sorry for getting dramatic. It's just, I'm kind of remembering a lot of the tougher moments that people have shared with me. And, I just want to say, you should be thankful to have some sort of freedom,
Yeah. Well, I've been through a lot of rough stuff, but the way I see it, for me at least, it makes me stronger as a person. I kind of gravitate towards the hard side of life these days because I always find more solace in it. There's more to be gained, more to learn from doing it the hard way rather than going the easy route.
Absolutely.
So, I believe in the phrase from the Bible. You got to teach a man to fish, because then he'll eat for a lifetime. If you give a man a fish, he'll only eat for a day. So you got to teach people or how to fish. Some people don't want to learn, but you got to teach them anyways, because that's what it means to have knowledge. You pass it on, and then when you learn from other people, you learn what they have to pass on. It's like the real currency of what humans are supposed to use as currency is knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like those tales. Those. That's how we get all these tall tales at times, sometimes, but it's just the passing down of knowledge from the elders onward. And I feel it's almost like the spoken word has been lost in a sense, in terms of the intimate connection of having somebody in person pass it down. But yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah. We have TED Talks today, and talking heads, the news, stuff like that. That's all shallow. There's no meaning behind any of that. When you're sitting next to somebody and you're sharing your intimate experiences, that's real.
Have you guys ever seen the Sam Hyde TED Talk?
Sam Hyde.
He's like a comedian, YouTube skit maker, but he got onto TED Talks and he just wore a foam gladiator suit and a toque, and then he was just trolling them the whole time, saying all kinds of crazy shit. Just kind of showing how bullshit TED Talks are.
Oh yeah. Sam Hyde, I gotta look that up.
He had a show at one point that got canceled, and they have a very peculiar sense of humor, but they're remaking it now, so I guess we'll see if that comes to fruition.
I think I want to mention, me and Cap were talking about something that just happened a couple days ago. So I usually sleep at this park here, but I like to chill next door. There's businesses, and behind these businesses is like a covered porch area. My buddy has given me access to an Xfinity hotspots. Get good, strong Wi-Fi back there. Everything is chill. Like, you don't see anybody back there. I've been chilling back there for a couple months, and I've seen maybe one other person. And when they saw me, they just ran off. I started hearing this, like, rustling. And movement. And I'm kind of, like, hoping, please don't come around the corner, because I'm assuming it's going to be a janitor. And all of a sudden, this guy comes around the corner, and he is, like, totally startled. And I think we quickly get the sense that we're both not supposed to be there. But the difference was that this guy was casing the place. He was stealing. He had this bag and was wearing these yellow gloves and just taking shit. And it's weird to say this. Like, I don't advocate. I absolutely do not support theft. Okay, unless you're going to die, I don't believe in stealing stuff, and if you're going to take something, it should be related to, you being able to survive. But this guy's taking ornaments and whatnot. And, we start talking, having a conversation. He gives me his phone number, his address, asks me if I need stuff. Hey, I'm here to help or whatever. And it's weird to say this, but the guy had a good vibe. Like, he was chill. I can't hold anything against him, but at the same time, I can't support stealing, but it's not in my interest, I feel, that I should be confrontational and try to, like, fight or whatever the hell. Like, I come from a combat background, so it's not like this guy's a threat. But again, I don't believe you should fight unless you have to, and at this point, or like, tell on the person or something like that, it was just, like, a very weird scenario to come through, where this guy's stealing, and you're just sitting there chilling, and he just goes on about his business. I go about my own business, and it's like, okay, he knows where I'm staying at. My place is blown up in a sense. I'm still going back there. It still works out. It's just a very weird moral dilemma, weird circumstances type of, scenario. So I was kind of like curious about your guys' outlook as to how you would deal with it, because I feel the risk-reward ratio it's more of a risk for me to try to be like super righteous in a sense. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your guys' input.
Okay, well, I'll go first. What I would do, well, first of all, he was casing the business, right? So yeah, like, I don't really care about corporations and what they lose. Like, I've stolen from corporations myself when I've worked there, I really don't care. The guy was doing what he did, Like, I've met all types of people, from criminals to murderers to police officers that were really cool dudes. Okay? Yeah. Now, I don't believe in authority, and I don't believe in being a criminal, but, like, my best friend back home in Winnipeg sells crack for a living. Okay, now I don't agree with that lifestyle, but he's good at it, He's never been caught, and he does what he does. So that's cool. You do you. But on the other hand, though, if I was sleeping there and somebody, I don't care who you are, whether you're a Karen, a police officer, a security guard, a janitor, the guy next door, if you find out where I'm sleeping, I'm moving. Because I don't want people to know where I'm at. That's just me. I like to be deep in, like, the bush. I don't want people to know where my shit is. I'm very, when it comes to my spot, I'm very private. Okay? So, that's what I got to say about it.
Okay, I got you. Let me counter that a little bit. So I totally agree with you in terms of, like, not having a confrontational approach. So this place I'm at, I generally don't sleep there, but I have been sleeping out in the open for a long time. I've only used, out of over 2 years, I've only used a tent for 1 month, and that was in DeKalb, Illinois, just outside Chicago. in the woods because it was snowy as hell and I couldn't find any other cover. So I prefer to find cover in places like parks, the sheltered picnic areas, parking garages, businesses. I actually made a video about this, but I believe you can essentially sleep anywhere as long as you're out by the time that the people get in. So having said that, and also I draw a lot of confidence in being a combat athlete. Like, a lot of this stuff is repetitive, and I apologize to Cap for kind of saying the same old shit throughout the podcast, but I wrestled for one of the best college teams in the nation. I was a top MMA amateur athlete, so for me, in terms of safety, I don't fear for that. It's just a vibe thing. After 2 years, you kind of get a sense of, your place in the world. So I'm not worried about that. And also the fact that I consider is that this guy has stolen everything he needs to steal from that place, and there's really not much. There's nothing to steal from me. He's given me his information and stuff like that. I'm not worried about that part. So my scenario is different. I generally would agree with what you're saying, Quirky, but my scenario is a little bit different. And also just, I'll sleep out in the open because I've gotten comfortable doing that, and it's worked for me. Do I suggest that? No, I do not. I don't suggest that for you. I think people should follow your method. They should follow Quirky's method because it's the safest. But just kind of my environment dynamics dictate that for me it's more convenient to be out in the open. And here in the park, thankfully, as it gets colder, there's really nobody that wants to be outside. You find, I think, a lot of people who are houseless, homeless, whatever you want to call it, that's when they're going to try to be seeking shelter. They're going to be going to, the various departments to be seeking some sort of, home or whatever you want. And I never apply for that because I'm not trying to be housed. I don't want to take from people's resources that need it. I'm being a vagabond. I'm wanting to travel at a moment's notice. So for me, it has worked out. Maybe that's deviating from the norm, but I don't feel any issue in sleeping in the open, and it's worked for me. That's it. But I agree more so with your method because it's more logical.
Yeah. Well, I'm a pretty small guy. I'm 5 foot nothing, and I don't really know any martial arts. I do carry a gun, but I really do not want to use it. So,
Yeah.
For me, just being out of sight and out of mind is just better for me,
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. I just think I'm in one of those weird scenarios that it's worked for me. And I think being a rubber tramp really helped in terms of getting comfortable just sleeping outside because I'd use my car just for transportation, but then I would take my memory foam topper and throw it outside the car because I wanted more space. And being able to kind of camp in hundreds of different scenarios, I've dealt with cops, business owners over 100 times, maybe close to 200 times, and they've always been positive. It builds a kind of confidence. Hopefully it's not a false confidence, but again, I kind of want to. It's just a more unique output. I feel like maybe I have an overconfidence in a sense, but nothing major has happened. And maybe ultimately, when you think about life, are you comfortable dying right now? And I feel like I've come to grips with my life that if it ends at any second, that I feel like it's good enough for me. Maybe that's the ultimate scenario. Because if you're comfortable enough to die, then maybe you're willing to do just whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. That's an interesting outlook. I feel the same about dying. That's fine. I've lived. But at the same time, I like privacy. I don't like to hear other people's footsteps walking by. I get really skittish when I'm sleeping outside and I hear noise or whatever. Because I've been approached by people. And I've been accosted a few times. There's been animals that have come around me that kind of scared me a bit, So for me, just being away from all of that is what works. you know?
No, like I said, I totally agree with you. It's almost like I'm kind of risking a little bit of convenience for that. But if you guys, and whoever's hearing this podcast, if you want to listen to anybody, listen to Quirky. I'm just kind of mentioning my own kind of unique scenario.
Yeah. That's cool you're able to do that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
To each their own, you know?
Exactly.
Have you ever camped out, like, really public somewhere where there's, like, people walking by you on the sidewalk, or...
Oh, yeah. I slept freaking, well, I mean, just being at the park, people are walking near you, but next door is like a nature area. There's this little nook on the side, on concrete. I love sleeping on concrete. I just love a firm surface, whatever. I've also slept in front of stores like Walmart. When I was in Vegas is like one of the shittiest spots to be homeless at if you're not at a shelter. There's no cover. So I've slept on freaking, like, you know, behind those electrical boxes, junction boxes, those big, like, you know, green boxes on the side of the sidewalk. I've slept right behind those, and you're like 3 feet from people walking by. And one time I actually had COVID. It was just wild as hell. I'm sleeping behind this electrical box, barely able to walk. And this random dude comes up and asks if I want to have a prostitute. It's like, I felt like I was in a different world. But yeah, I've been that visible where I've slept in front of, you know, stores. And the thing is, I know I'm going to be caught. But the whole idea is how many hours can I get in of rest before they tell me to leave? And then I figure stuff out from there. I actually moved over to a park. I think parks are just a good default. Like, if you don't have anything else, go to a park. But then at this park, I was approached by a gang of teenagers that wanted to take my money. And there were these two big teenagers that approached me. And there's like a mass of, you know, whatever, 10 of them behind them. And at this point, like, I didn't have any weapons or whatever, but I stood my ground. Because at this point, like, I believe if you're a vagabond, you are carrying your entire life. So at this point, I consider that I'm fighting for my life, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So when I took my hoodie off, for some reason, they're like, "Oh my God, it's the feds!" And they ran away. It was like a really weird experience, like very weird experience. But thankfully, I looked like I was a fed, and that, you know, saved me a lot of trouble. But that's just kind of the risk you take being public. So I've had a lot of scenarios where I slept in a parking lot, and more so when I was a rubber tramp, I would just take risks and sleep in parking lots, and I would position my car at, let's say, a corner of a parking lot and sleep behind it. So at least I would have some sort of cover. It's not so much hiding because it's pretty obvious, like, why is the car parked like that? But it's to give you time to react to whoever's coming up on you. And cops, like I say, cops have come up on me so many times. If you're willing to laugh and smile and just make light of the situation, they're just going to wave you off. That's kind of one defense I want to give to cops, is that, you know, thankfully almost all of them are chill in terms of, like, if you're able to laugh at yourself, and you're like, "Yes, sir, I'm going to move right away. I understand the issue. I apologize." Because I was caught like 2 weeks ago at a nearby parking garage at a business, actually near where the businesses I stay that I was telling you about. And these two cops come about me and they're shining their light right in my face. I open up my sleeping bag and I'm just laughing in their face. And you can see them smile. Like, what a crazy reaction. And we're both just laughing at each other. And they're like, "Hey man, yeah, I'm sorry, you can't stay here." And I tell them, "I understand, I'm going to get out of here." And they didn't even ask me for my ID. So I think attitude goes a long way.
Yeah, see, I can't do that, though. I have a problem with authority, so whenever a cop approaches me for no reason, I get a little defensive. Especially if they ask me for my ID. I didn't do nothing.
I totally understand you. Exactly, yeah. It's funny. No, I think, like I say, I think your approach is the best. I just have a weird, unique scenario or approach that it works for me, but I don't recommend it. Maybe the way I appear or look to people or how I engage them might be more disarming in a sense. So that's what I go to. It works for me, but I don't think it's going to work for most people. So you go based upon the feel, but I think whenever people ask for your ID right away, it is off-putting. It should get you pissed off because you're like, I'm living. Like, do you think I want to do this? Do you think I want to come in this parking garage and just lay my head? No, it's a spot I found. I'm gonna make do with what I've got. So why are you trying to treat me like I'm a criminal? I'm literally just trying to exist. I'm going to move. As long as I agree with you, you don't need to dig deeper.
Yeah. For me, it's like, why are you messing with me? I'm just a homeless dude. Go arrest the Congress or something. Because they're the real criminals. Like, what are you doing?
That's true. Yeah. There's some dudes selling drugs at the bus stop that are very visible, but yet you totally disregard them. And that's what I found in Seattle. I ride the bus a lot, and these bus stops have been taken over by hordes of drug addicts. And they're openly smoking and selling and stuff, and you don't give a fuck about that. But you care about some dude laying his head on the concrete? Come on, guys. I think Seattle, they pick the easier battles to fight.
Yeah. Seattle seems like an almost failed city. That's what it felt like when I was there. Like, everything's overgrown. The bus system is terrible. The cops don't care. Drugs are everywhere,
Yes.
Yeah, it was crazy place.
I am being sold drugs every day. Like, it's taken over by these home bums who are addicts. Do I feel sorry for the circumstance? Yes, because there has to be something very desperate to drive you to being that low of a level.
Yeah.
But the fact that the cops want to target some dude who wants to lay his head in the grass or concrete is weird, because there is entire bus stops that have been overrun by drug addicts that are openly smoking their pipes. But yet you don't want to confront that. Why? Because it's harder for you to do. It's easier for you to pick on some dude by himself who just wants to lay down.
Yeah. That's why I don't like authority, man. Like, half of them are corrupt anyways, Like, what are you doing telling me what to do? I don't bother nobody,
Exactly.
I keep to myself. I don't do bad things. And when cops, like, I had this one experience when I was in Nashville. Now, Nashville's police are probably the best police I've ever seen anyway. They were really respectful. They helped the homeless. It was good situation. But there was this one time. So I'm walking through one of the parks downtown, right next to the stadium where the Predators play.
Yeah, it's volunteer.
And sorry?
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say the Tennessee Volunteers. That's Knoxville, though.
Is it? Oh, no. It was the hockey team's Predators. So, anyways, it's the Central Park right there, right in between the pedestrian bridge and where the Predators play. And I was walking through it, like I had done countless times. And I noticed that there was these cops waking up one of the homeless guys. So I kind of watched, I sat there, I was eating chips, and I just watched it. And then, lo and behold, as soon as they were done, took them about 10 minutes, they come walk over to me. And they're like, what are you doing in the park? Park's closed. I said, oh, is it? That's nice. That's good to know. They said, give me your ID. And I said, oh, okay, well, first of all, no, because I don't have to. And second of all, are you going to trespass me? They said, well, we might. So that's funny, because you need to give me a warning first. See, that's the law. You can't just kick me out. You can't arrest me. I didn't know there's no signs posted. They said, sir, have a good day. And they went and fucked with another homeless guy. So I was like, well, what the hell, man? Why do you got to be like that? What's the point?
Exactly.
I got a funny closed park story there. One.
Cap, let me just mention something really quick.
Go ahead.
I was going to mention, sorry about that, just because it was so related. A good strategy I found is to say, sorry, I don't have any ID. And we kind of just browse by that. It's worked for me. I'm just saying, I don't know if it's the norm, but I many times claim I have zero ID, and either they waive it or they ask you for your name, which you can get whatever the fuck name you want, and it works.
Yeah, I've seen that work in a trap house before. Yeah, it definitely does work. Like, I've seen a buddy do it before where he just said he didn't have ID, gave them a fake name, and they were fully like knocking on the door knowing where, like, what this apartment and address was, and they didn't even really like question it further.
Exactly.
An interesting story with closed parks. One time I was with a couple buddies, and so buddy had a car, and we drove to this parking lot to find a spot to just smoke a blunt. And we were there smoking, and we're just about done when a police supervisor pulls around and just stops right beside the car. And it's full of smoke at this point, like everyone knows what's going on. And the supervisor comes to the window and says like, "Oh, what are you guys up to? Like, you guys smoking?" And my buddy that's driving says like, "No, no, no, we're not smoking." But then on his phone that he has in his lap is just a Snapchat of him on loop on repeat smoking the blunt we were just smoking. So then the supervisor just looks down and says, "So that's not just you on repeat smoking a blunt?" And then I just like was in the back, so I just leaned forward. I said, "Oh, like, my apologies, officer. Like, our friend here, he's a little retarded. Like, don't worry about him. He's good to go." And then the cop was just like, "Yeah, no worries. Like, it gets legalized tomorrow because it's Canada, and it was right before legalization." And then he was like, "I just wanted to let you guys know the park's closed and you guys have to leave." And then he just fully let Buddy drive off, like, and have like a DUI pretty much. Like, he didn't stop us or anything, but he just let him DUI out of the parking lot and just didn't want to deal with it.
Well, gentlemen, I have to call it a night because I need to give up the room that I'm in right now. I'm kind of borrowing it right now. But it was a pleasure, and I hope to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. We should do the threes again.
Well, for sure, yeah. Quirky, nice to meet you, man. I appreciate you sharing, and yeah, thanks for doing what you're doing, and keep on keeping on.
Okay, you as well. And like I said, I hope to do it again, and probably soon. That'd be good. And then
Absolutely.
Stay safe out there, man.
Likewise.
You too, man. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And you too, Cap.
Yeah, for sure. Take care, man. Hopefully no more tweakers try and come into the house.
Yeah, that was a night. I'll get into that one on the next podcast. It's kind of a long story. That was a very interesting night. Another reason why I don't like authority. Anyway.
All right.
You guys have a good night, all right?
You as well.
Yeah, you too, Quirky.
Okay. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.
And that concludes episode 25 of the Moonbase podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. Again, just to reiterate, check out the description where you'll find Quirky Blurky, I Am Sham the Man's content and how you can reach out to them if you want to give them a shout. And you'll also find the link to the Patreon. If you like what you hear and want to support the podcast, check it out. Have a good one.